Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
You have 6 to 7 minutes, okay? Please.
Sure. I'll try to stick in that timeline.
Yeah.
I think there has been very excellent presentations from Mr. Das, from Tata Power Solar, Tata Power Distribution. Raghav went to basics, and I think that's the key. We sometimes forget the basics. In my presentation, I'll just speak about a few things which we have observed in our experience and share with you so that you can use them for your future projects. I represent Statkraft BLP Solar Solutions. It's a joint venture between Norway's Statkraft and India's Bharat Light and Power. Statkraft is a large company owning more than 19,000 megawatts of assets across the globe. Most of them are very large hydropower assets in the north of Europe, but also having presence in South America, Asia, and a bit in Africa. Bharat Light and Power is an Indian company promoted 7 years back, and they operate about 180 megawatts of wind assets and also have a platform to remotely monitor wind and solar assets across the globe. I'll just skip the introduction. This is the business model. We operate in so-called C&I space, wherein we provide services to commercial and industrial customers. One of the ways to do that, to install a solar power project within their campus. There are two jargons, CAPEX or OPEX, which means if the customer is investing the capital themselves, that becomes a CAPEX project. In that case, we would just deliver the project them. Of course, it's not just delivering the project. It takes all what Raghav mentioned in the previous presentations. Or it could be OPEX, wherein in addition to providing the services to construct the project, to operate the project, we also finance it. And we typically would sign a really long-term PPA, power purchase agreement, with the consumer, and they just have to pay for the energy which is generated and used by them. But that is not sufficient. Sometimes, not sometimes, most of the times, rooftop or in-campus space is quite limited. Many of our clients are five-star hotels who have very limited rooftop space, and the rooftop projects can only provide them between 5 to 10% of their requirement. So what we also do is that we set up projects outside of city in remote locations, which are relatively large in size, between 5 and 50 megawatts, and then we use the transmission and distribution grid to supply power using open access to the consumers. Again, signing a PPA where the consumers don't have to invest any capital or don't have to spend any money for operation and maintenance of the plant. Now, this is a typical project. It's a five-star hotel in Pune to whom we're supplying a project right now. 100 kilowatt peak project on the rooftop can actually save up to 1.3 crore rupees for the customer across 25 years. And this is without investing a single penny. So someone like us or Cleantech or CleanMax would come up, do the evaluation of the rooftop, set up the project, and then the customer has to just utilize clean and green power. They save money, but they also save the environment by saving or abating more than 150 tons of carbon dioxide every year. So based on a few installations we've done in the past 2 years, there are a few challenges which we have observed, and I also have some potential solutions which can be used to overcome those challenges. The first one is, of course, at least for me, it was a surprise. In our building construction, we have something called plan design and something called as-built design. So you would plan a design for a building construction, but ultimately the things turn out to be something different. And you would make a drawing which is as-built drawing. And sometimes the real situation on the roof is quite distant from even the as-built drawing. So it is very, very important that you do an on-site evaluation of the rooftop. You find out what obstructions are there, how can you connect the output of your plant to the distribution network there. So it's very important to have accurate measurements and an independent assessment of the structure. In industrial rooftops, there are obstructions like skylights, turbo vents, there are communication towers, which would not only limit the amount of or number of panels you can install, but will also cast a shadow on the panels, which we would typically like to avoid. Skylights also produce a significant health and safety risk because they are not that strong, and a worker can actually go down from the roof if they step on the skylights. So in designing, there has to be a workaround on the obstructions, and also maintain clearances from these obstructions. We might have to sometimes relocate communication towers or lightning arresters to ensure a clear sunlight to the rooftop installation. Matching electricity load consumption to solar installation capacity. And this is something which I think a couple of speakers have spoken earlier, is that there are many times where the solar installation will generate more than what your consumption at the center is, at the load center is. There is net metering, at least on paper, in quite a few places. But ultimately, it's important that we are able to match the load and supply profile, and also have a plan that if there is extra generation, do we have a net metering or a storage solution or some solution to take care of that energy. Safe and secure access to roof, at least my limited experience says that it's at a very bad state right now, because the industrial roofs, at least, were not meant to be used. Nobody even envisages to go up on the industrial roof. While when we are installing solar power projects, we go up to 15 to 25 meters height. And as Raghav mentioned, working at heights is one of the highest safety concerns. So there is a necessity to have platforms, scaffolding, dedicated ladders, and all that costs money. And sometimes that money is not budgeted, either in the project cost or the power cost, and a proper budgeting of that has to be done. There are few places, especially hotels, where there are concerns about aesthetics, that they don't want the panels to be visible to their clients. There's a lot of work going on. There are module manufacturers who are now making very beautiful black panels, or a lot of work is going on aesthetics. But again, that may limit the amount of energy you can generate from the installation. So it is very important that the layout is designed in consultation with the facility manager, and have a design which they are comfortable with, and have a detailed discussion on how you can maximize the capacity of your plant, but also do not hamper the aesthetics of the facility. There are concerns on potential roof damage, because sometimes we use penetrating solution for industrial rooftops. Sometimes you also have no penetration. But even the rooftops which are concrete rooftops, there are concerns about leakage, because you'll be putting some construction on the roof, which was probably not designed for that kind of construction. So, try to use non-penetrative solutions as much as possible. And in case the penetrative structures are required, there has to be a proper plan to have
1 minute left, Pratyush.
Sure, I'll finish in 1 minute, to ensure that there's no leakage. The next point is about total harmonic distortions. Again, in an industrial setup, the harmonics may create a disbalance in the system. So a power analyzer needs to be placed, and measurements needs to be done before you're designing your plant to ensure compatibility with the internal grid. Safety and security of asset, because when in our business model, we would set up a plant, but we would own the asset, and security of that asset is a concern for us as investors. So the security and safety of asset mostly is the responsibility of the customer, and they have to ensure that there is proper access control, and there is no one who can damage that asset within their campus. So these are some of the learnings we have from the installations. If you have more questions, we can take offline.